Okay, I'd like to thank Tony for. I misunderstood what was happening in the chat. I thought that everyone was trying to summon me in some other way, in a sort of abstract way, not in an actual way. So I've been busy talking and explaining about this ritual that we're going to do and about this deck and about purification and so forth for the last 10 minutes. And I had clicked on start streaming and it was showing me my connection as being excellent and so forth. So I have no idea what happened there. I do apologise. That's the void of YouTube. That's where I was. So let me recap then. I won't go back through everything that I've been burbling on about for the last 10 minutes into the void. So I'm assuming people can actually see and hear me now. So let's recap the important things of what an abridged version of what I was saying and demonstrating and showing into the void for the last 10 minutes. So, right. So I was talking about, you missed a hilarious joke about the Cruel Things Tarot as well. So I do apologise for that. It was so funny. It was one of the best jokes of tarot ever. So unfortunately, you had to be there. So okay then. So here is the new Immortals Tarot, and what we're going to do today, I thought, as it's Samhain, as it's Halloween, I didn't want to bore people with a whole spiel on Samhain, on Halloween, all of the mysteries, all of the Celtic myth, all of the agricultural cycle, all of the other things to do with Samhain. I thought we'd just go straight into an actual little ritual together and spend some time doing something which I'm not sure is an invocation or an evocation, or it is a ritual. It's partly a ritual and it's partly just a open eye meditation, contemplation, a form of path working, I guess. And this is where I thought we were having the in-joke about being summoned from the void and so forth, because I was talking about summoning the experience of the tarot into our actual life. So again, yes, happy birthday to Tony. I did start off with that, and I thought that, again, we were all on the same hymn sheet. I didn't realise that I wasn't even in the church at the time. So here we go then. What we're going to do is I'm going to read out a line, and if you've been on our socials, you'll have seen this both this year and in previous years. And what I thought we could do, because we have YouTube now and we have this channel and we have the group, then what we can do is I can actually demonstrate it in real time, and then we can talk about it a bit and get into the actual experience of it, rather than me putting it online every year and assuming that people are doing it or using it in some way. And we can go deeper into this particular deck. So this is the new Immortals deck by Madeline McLaughlin, who is in Brooklyn, New York. And it's an interesting deck because it's semi-montage, semi-photographic, but it has its own lore, its own imaginarium, its own liminal space, its own sort of mythos, I guess. And it's just slightly off-centre. It's just slightly off-centre. And I was wondering which deck to use today for this particular exercise, and I was thinking the darker sort of deck might be good, this Night Sun Tarot. And we used I think it was a Chariot card on the cover of a Tarosphere International magazine, and I was using Into the Void, that the magazine that we have now as a part of the Tarot Association membership has got so many brilliant articles in it by so many brilliant authors over the years that we need to do a best of, or just revive the magazine again. It's very difficult to sustain a magazine, particularly these days, for more than about 3 issues, particularly as we didn't have to promote anything, we didn't support it by advertising, we just spent all of our time producing it, and the people contributing the articles produced it for the love of it. But there's about 20 something issues, maybe even 30 issues, and we should do a best of. And the Chariot was one of the great covers of one of those issues. And then I was also thinking about the Cruel Things deck, which is a very, very odd deck. It's one that annoys the Tarot de Marseille purists because it's a style that is so inappropriate for Tarot de Marseille that it really riles the Tarot de Marseille, the TDM purists and the real historians of tarot and so forth. And that's why I love it. And that's why Dan Pelletier of the Tarot Garden at the time recommended it to me down a dark alley underneath a table as a sort of very rebellious deck. But in the end, I decided on the New Immortals just because it's a beautiful deck and it's just off-center enough for the purposes of this ritual. So, Apox is saying that the Night Sun's one of your favourite decks. Excellent. So I'm just going to stick that on top of there. And then I was just laying out these cards on the table just as a sort of purification and setting a altar of sorts by laying out the deck and putting the box on the top there. Because when we do a ritual in actual magic, we use what is available to us. I could go up to the stone circle tonight, but I'm going to need Wellingtons. It's going to be absolutely throwing it down, and there's going to be a load of usually quite, territorial people up there claiming their space for whatever they're doing. And that's quite often, unfortunately, shouting, setting illegal fires in the stone circle and otherwise not behaving very appropriately. That's not always the case, and it's obviously not all people, but as a public place, and particularly as it's become more popular over the years and with hashtag witch talk and things like this, it doesn't guarantee peace, quiet, tranquility, communion with the ancestors and the dead, an alignment with the sacred stellar and celestial forces when you're trying to fend off a drunk who's lurching into you saying that he loves you and so forth. So we make use of whatever we wish with actual magic, I think. And quite often a deck will suit a particular ritual, a particular method, and so I thought we'd try this one for this method. So what I'm going to do, and if you're familiar with this, then let's do it together. And if you're not, then you can simply do it like this. I want you to imagine that you can enter into the card that we're showing. So here we're going to start with the Magician, and I've laid out these cards in numerical order. So these are the major arcana, or 22 of them. They're in numbered order, but I've started with 1. I've ended with the World, card 21, and the Fool is at the bottom for this particular method, and there is a reason for that, as we'll come to see. And I'm just going to read out a line, and I'm going to turn over the card, and we're going to take a look at it. Then I might read out the line again, and then we're going to just have a pause, and then I was actually thinking I could reach for the bell. Shall I do that? Shall I start us off with the bell? I think that would be a nice thing to do. So here we have one of the most underestimated magical tools of all, in my opinion, is the magical bell, because it calls, it announces, it summons, it alerts, it changes our physical state, it reverberates. Its symbolism is of resonance, which is one of the core things of magic. And this particular temple bell that I've had for quite a while is made of these 7 planetary metals. So in effect, it launches, it activates all these 7 planetary forces when you ring it. And it's got one of the most wonderful tones, that particular bell. So I'll start us off with that. Then I'm going to read a line. I want you to consider the card in the context of the line. So consider the card, anything that comes to mind. And if you're reasonably experienced, intermediate, or want to try it, almost enter into the card. So actually imagine that you're stood somewhat inside the card and that you can actually enter into it. So perhaps the figure in the card or the objects in the card, the landscape in the card may come alive, it may come animated, it may just shimmer, it may suddenly switch in and out of focus. Your attention might be brought to a sound that now appears in the card itself. So use all of your senses. Here we have a bit of a seascape. It may be an estuary, it may be the tide is in or out. There's a little tower in the distance that we can see. Perhaps it's even a lighthouse. All of these things will come to you once you just open into the card. And it's just a little bit of a mental treat. You can do it with your eyes open. Just try and activate every sense, because some people are not necessarily visually led. Some people are more auditory, in a sense, in this context. And so therefore, if they hear the wind rushing in the woman's hair, then that might be the thing that really activates the card for them in some active way. So we're going to start. I'll turn over a card. I'm going to read something. I might read it again, and then I'll turn them over and I'll turn over the next card. And I just want you to spend a moment looking at it. I'm not going to rush us, and we can enjoy this together. Okay, so are we ready to begin? And I'm going to do a quick equivalent of the Lesser Banishing Ritual, but a sort of card-only, deck-only version for us, I guess. Invoke the Haru, the great angel that is set over the operations of this secret deck of wisdom, in the name of IAO. Thou will lay thy hand upon these, my consecrated cards of art, that thereby we may obtain true knowledge of hidden things, to the glory of thine ineffable name. So be it. This, the mistaken word, the sharp wound of the past. This, the mistaken word, that sharp wound in the past. This is the secret that should have been spoken, and the veil of time this the secret you should have spoken. and the veil of time. And this is the life that has yet to grow beyond what has gone before. This the life yet has to grow beyond the gone before now. And this is the power that still yet burns in the embers. And this is the power that yet still burns, even in the embers. It burns in those embers. This is the pattern of your upbringing. This is the pattern of your upbringing. This is the pattern of your upbringing and life. This is the pattern of your life. This is the pattern of your life and upbringing. In your head, feel the card and say, this is the pattern of my upbringing. This is the pattern of my life. This is the pattern of my upbringing and life. This is my life and upbringing and the pattern thereof. And how does the Hierophant meet you in this way? What is the feeling? What words or tone might be given, spoken and taken? This is the relationship that has time to be fulfilled. This is the relationship that has time to be fulfilled. And this is the shell that all you were. This is the shell of all that you were. This is all that was tried to be kept together. All that was tried so hard to be kept together, so hard to keep together. This is the card of all that was tried to be kept together that time. This is what you tell yourself when there's no one to listen. hermit hears what you tell yourself when there is no one to listen. The hermit hears you hear yourself when you tell yourself. This is when it all changes. 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 And this is the way in which you find yourself. This is the way you find inside yourself. Inside yourself you find the way. The way you find yourself in that way. This is what you hold to above all other things. This is what you can hold on to. Above, below, within, without, then as now, all other things. This is what holds you. This is the time of transformation. This is transformation itself. Time for transformation. Now, transform in time for transformation. This is that time. And now this is the art and alchemy of symbol and reality. The dance, the art, the science of reality. This is the sign, this is the portent, this is the symbol of reality. This is the living nature of all things connected to each other. Oh, how they dance. And sometimes when you dance to the music, the devil whispers in your ear, but all it does is go up and down. The devil has all the best tunes. And the devil is in the desire. And this is the end and the beginning of now. Gaze into those eyes. All the eyes have a gaze, a light. The singular path, the star, the vision, the light that shines in the darkness, but the darkness comprehends it not. We seek the star, we see the star, we reach for that vision. The singular path. fearful path now that takes us into the deep unknown. The light then that is born of midnight. Then the call, the unearthing, the dawning up of the fire. A judgment of sorts. What would such an angel judge of you, of us, of this and that? Of all that has passed and all that is now and all that is to come. This is the world in which we work, letting go of all we do not need, letting go of necessity itself, to allow us to work in the world without lust of result, a singular I, an I in multitudes. And this is the truth, the freedom, and the way. Singular I in a multitude of eyes. Okay, so thank you for joining us on that journey. I hope it was somewhat engaging, perhaps even evocative. It's interesting when you take the time to associate the cards with a set of keywords or contemplations, interpretations of the symbolism. It was interesting. I was thinking about this card with the secret that should have been spoken and how that makes these tentacles inside your mind. I think that somewhat added to the sense of symbolism. I was surprised by this card, the Empress, about the life that has yet to grow. Oh, someone tattooed an octopus. All right, excellent. Excellent. It was Bill. Yeah, Tony, the bell, there's a sort of magical rule, I think. I don't know where I ever picked this up, but you have to allow the bell to ring out before you put it down. It's really bad form to just put the bell down until it's finished resonating, at least as far as you can hear it. So I always wait until it resonates out before placing it back down. I don't inadvertently silence it. And this was interesting, the Hierophant, because my wording was worded based on a general sense of the cards, a general sense of tarot and the major arcana, but it was, and I forgotten. I've not used this deck for quite a while. It's in my sort of circulation, my rotation pile. And I suddenly realised when I read out that, what was it? This is the pattern of upbringing and life. How this card really shows that sort of pattern, and the way that the pattern, the habits of life and our upbringing, nature and nurture, work to entrap us in our beliefs and so forth. And I suddenly realised how defining the Hierophant can be as a card, as opposed to liberating in terms of its sense of expertise or teaching or wisdom or spiritual values and so forth. It struck me how, and particularly this depiction, this symbolism on the card really shows how we can be bound, almost unaware of our own patterns, of our own nature and nurture, as if how could we be anything other than who we are and what we are. So I quite liked seeing that for the first, not necessarily the first time, but certainly seeing it clearly, sort of for our first time. Meddling Sheep says that they've been doing the exercise number 2 in Tarosophy. So there's 50 exercises in Tarosophy, the book, and asking the major arcana, the trumps, why the tarot works, 1 per day, and getting some outstanding responses. You see, the cards love to tell you that the cards are really our divination. They are our method of defining nature itself, truth, reality, how our brains work and so forth. At a bare minimum, they're a reflection of our own psychological processes, a bit as Jung saw alchemy as the alchemists had no idea of the chemical processes going on, so all they could see and all they could describe and all they could do was reveal the contents of their own minds. And that's really where the whole premise of Jungian interpretation, symbolism and alchemy comes from. The idea that the alchemists were conducting chemical experiments, but because they didn't have any idea of a scientific model, one might say, although again it's all debatable, a lot of Jungian thought is very debatable, that it was their unconscious processes that they had to reveal and write about, because that was how they were seeing and almost divining nature through the symbolism, because they weren't actually reporting, recording, accessing the so-called truth, which is actually, of course, science is just another model. So when you ask the cards how the tarot works, asking why the tarot works might be another exercise. The cards will help you define that for yourself as well. I love the Lover's card. That's reminded me of relationships are always a dance, always dynamic. And then there was something else as well that struck me. I love the self-soothing, the self-comforting symbolism that the artist Madeline McLaughlin has chosen this image for the Hermit, and I love that sort of the person knows what's going on internally and is sort of responding to that just by themselves. They're not relying on someone else, although there are all of these other hands. I thought that was quite appropriate for Halloween as well, I guess, and for Samhain. All of these other hands that we might interpret as people who can't help the person when we are in our hermit mode, or we shouldn't allow to interfere with our own internal processes. And I love the darkness and the fact that it's just the hands and the face that we can see here. Lovely design on that card. And reminds me, there's a Japanese manga deck that I really love. And the Hermit card is just, they're very long cards. They're quite elongated. The ratios are very different. And the Hermit card is just a line, like a chain with a lantern on it. And I remember seeing it and thinking, it's all about the lantern. The Hermit card is not about the Hermit, it's all about the lantern. And here, that's really this focus on the face and the hands. That's a beautiful design. Like the Wheel of Fortune. I don't know about anyone else. Did anyone else find the Hangman quite comforting? This image quite comforting? When I was first starting to enter into it and look at it and reading the line for that, this is what I hold to above all other things, I thought it was a bit terrifying because of the way that the person's been hung in that particular way. But then maybe the clothing, the dress here, quite relaxed. Yeah, I did. It made me feel a bit sleepy, sort of like I could really ease into it, and I don't often feel that way about the Hanged Man. The Death card. Now that's a Halloween card. Surely that's when we were talking about transformation and all of the symbolism of Samhain and Halloween. I just love that card. That's very much the time of transformation. This is time itself. And perhaps this is there's very religious clothing on that card. It's really got into that. As Bird saying, I don't know how Tony's feeling on his birthday, but as marking the passage of time, this is fairly appropriate. Certainly, I've been feeling like that for the last 3 months myself. I think it's maybe I had COVID or something like that. But my friend Lynn Birkbeck gave me a emergency. What did he call it? A transit flash. He gave me an envelope with a transit flash, and it was a sheet of paper with a couple of my transits on it that he wanted to alert me to. And one of them, there were 2 transits. One was Saturn transiting my Mars in a very challenging position. And he said, and the note that he gave me, my transit flash was, oh, you need to be alert that has been going on since September, and it is now passing and will pass. Like it was about 2 days ago that transit moved across my chart. And I said, this is amazing. This is exactly, I've never felt so challenged. So Saturn and Mars, even though I didn't know that was in my chart for the last 3 months. And luckily enough, and part of the reason he gave me the transit flash was to give me hope that another new transit that is replacing that one is actually a lot more creative and powerful. And I've been feeling that for the last few days. So always have an astrologer that you can trust, that's for sure. Quite like the Devil. Devil has the best music. Wasn't quite sure about the Tower. I'm not sure whether I quite like the personification of that card, but that means that all I need to do is sit down and talk to the character, enter into it a little bit more, and see what new stuff that the character has to tell me about the Tower. This is such a powerful portraiture of these 2 cards, particularly in combination with each other. Sort of silver and gold contrasting with the portraits. The Judgment card, I love the incense. And then very much taken with the symbolism of the eye as in identity. So the multiple eyes and the singular eye, and particularly with the 4, that we become a complete whole consciousness. A whole spiritual life is one of awareness and consciousness with no form. And these are the eyes of... It actually reminded me of the Abyss, where Crowley said that the great demon Coronazon was a multitude of eyes, points of identity in the Abyss, all screaming, I exist, I exist, I exist. And that really gave me the sense of crossing the abyss of identity in that way. Yeah, the world and the full match obviously with the symbolism of eye for identity, for vision, and so forth. And I quite like the, what's it called, trompe l'oeil, I can't pronounce it in French, but the trick of the eye, where cards or where images, like usually painted on doors or furniture and things, come out of the frame. So I quite like the way that the eye there is actually bursting out and coming out of the frame entirely, almost even out of the card. So, yeah, there's that sort of form of symbolism, that it's not even bound by the symbolism and the card itself, which I quite like. So, yeah, so that is the new Immortals, but hopefully that's an interesting exercise. And what I did was I printed out the words, but then I switched them around a little bit. I linked a few of them, because when you actually do it in practice, you can be free to really go with the way the words are taking you, to use the words, as in any ritual, to some extent as a framework. It's always best, particularly if it's the first time you're doing something, to try and stick to the wording itself, stick to the format of the ritual or the method or the system, and then play around with it later, particularly when you feel drawn to do so. So that is a what could we call that? A spoken contemplation, a spoken analysis, a comparative analysis between a set of patterned, symbolic sentences, keywords, and the images themselves. But now imagine that we did that with a different deck, okay? And that's it. Birds, trompe l'oeil, deceiving the eye, a trick of the eye. Yeah, my French pronunciation is bad as my pronunciation of any other language, including English. So if you did that with a totally different deck, you might get different insights. You might get different insights to the deck using those words, but the words might read differently. The stressors might read differently depending on the deck itself. And what does that tell us about tarot? What does that tell us about interpretation? What does that tell us about symbolism? So these sorts of exercises are really good if you do them. It's really important to do the stuff, and I guess that's why I sort of wanted to actually do something a bit practical today with folk, rather than have a more interactive discussion, because I just wanted to remind myself as well at the moment that it's really good to reconnect to things really simply by doing little exercises, by doing different bits of work, by just swapping out one deck for another deck, by doing things. As you'll know, if you've been hanging around our world for a while, we have a greeting of "by our work we are changed," and a farewell of "the worker is hidden in the workshop." And that comes from our magical order, where we are behoven to remind ourselves in everything that we do, it is by our work we are changed, and that transformation, that initiation, is the important thing that we're working for, that we are not just working to produce more material or another deck or write more words or whatever it might be. Those are all part of existence, of course, but at the heart of it is this transformative work, is the work that we do on ourselves and that we share together as well. Just to answer that question from Osman, I have been really poorly for 3 months, like mentally, spiritually, physically poorly, more than sort of more for a longer time than I've been before. I think I wasn't quite in breakdown territory as far as I could tell, and as far as my friends have reported, but I was certainly in burnout territory. And as a result, one of the things that happened over that time, because I was working so hard on building the YouTube channel amongst a load of other stuff, is I thought I had told people that it would be the Secret Dawn deck, this deck that people would get for helping build the channel as I was releasing membership for the channel. And because I was doing the boot camp and working really hard on that, and but I then saw, and I think it may have been you, Osman, that emailed me, or certainly somebody else did, that at some other point I told people that because we had a lot of spare Tarot of Everlasting Day decks, that it was that deck that I would be sending out to those people who joined the channel during that time. And so as a result, I ended up working with Shay in the States to get me sent over, and I ordered at great expense a load of extra of these decks, these Secret Dawn decks, which I feel are just as, well, I mean, they're different. It's a totally different thing to this deck. And sent out some of those. Shay sent out a load of them as well to fulfill that offer. And we said, right, okay, we wouldn't charge anyone postage. We were going to do it just for postage, but let's not bother. Let's just get them sent out. We want to do a nice thing with that and reward people for helping us build the channel, and that's what we'll do. So it was the Tarot of Everlasting Day, right? So I hope that the people who have received the Tarot of the Secret Dawn are going to be very happy with it. I'm going to be sending out the PDF for that as well. But if you do want the Tarot of Everlasting Day and you were part of that offer, if none of this makes any sense to you, then just ignore this. We're going to close off in a second. This is just for those people talking about this particular offer that we had for a brief time. Drop me an email, and I will get back to you, and we'll get you one sent, because we have these in stock, and we now have these back in stock as well to fulfill that offer. So just drop me a line and we'll get you sorted out one way or another. And I will be catching up with a load of emails over the last. They have built up over several weeks because I've been a bit out of it, and also we've been finishing the Magister. I'm glad to say that the Magister is now finished. Charlotte and I have finished our revision on it, and I just have to repaginate it and then have a test print. So hopefully that's going to be in the next few days. So Tracy, we will get back to you. I do have your message, and I will get back to you. Now, the Tarot of Everlasting Day, there are two versions. There's what we call the outer deck, or the beginner deck, which is the AI one. That is a what do you call it? It's an unusual deck. It's a unique deck because it has both pictorial and pip card miners that you can swap in and out of it. Okay, so that is in effect two decks in one. But we also have the one that Janine Hall did with us, which is this deck, and I only have one copy of this. And this is the most beautiful, gorgeous deck. It took 12 years to produce. It's 22 major arcana, but we only printed it once, and it's now out of print. And this is really for members of the Order of Everlasting Day, but it's also publicly available. And it is a beautiful, beautiful deck. Janine is a fine art, award-winning oil artist, portrait artist as well. We are going to get this reprinted, and we have something special that Tarly Goodwin, Charlotte Wilde and I did for period of, I think it took us about 8 months to add to this deck. And so we might use that piece of work, but we're still working on it, so we might just republish it as is, or we might have something to add into it for a republication. And this is the wheel card, so it's Arthur Edward Waite's favourite card of the mystical experience. He put this card at the top of the Tree of Life, and this is why we have Arthur Edward Waite's words, Est una sola res, at the top of it. There is only the one thing, and that's why it's on the cover, and it's why I have a large version of it on my wall in the library here. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us for this Samhain evening. It is a time of transformation, a time of the veil of the relationship that we have with reality being potentially thinned in the environment. So let us learn to see through that, and as ever, see through to the truth of whatever is going on. And whatever is going on is the inquiry as to what is going on. So let us always continue to ask questions. So happy birthday again, Tony, and Merry Samhain to everyone. If you're conducting other practices, blessings on your practices of the night. Let us also remember our ancestors, all of those who have gone before us, and all of those who are still with us. Okay, everyone, thanks a lot. I shall see you next week. I'll be doing another live next week, and there's more to come for the membership channel as well. I've got loads of stuff queued up for the membership channel as well, so don't forget to join us as a member. We have a load of good material there as well. Okay, thanks a lot, everyone, and as ever, the worker is hidden in the workshop. Bye for now.